Howdy folks, hope you're doing well. So we're going to keep looking at our JavaFX applications here. We're going to take a look at a couple other common controls as well as tying it in a little more closely with a class here. So we had the lotto ticket example where we used that lotto ticket class, but I want to show you how we could essentially kind of keep a class in the controller that we can use throughout all of those activities here. So we're going to call this our little coffee shop here because definitely need some coffee given all the things going on here. So I'll make a new project in our repo here. And again, we get the default view, which I'm not a big fan of. The VBox is okay. We'll get to some of those layouts next week, taking a look at some more of those. But for now, I'm going to go in and just change that to be the, right-click open with Scene Builder, to be a anchor pane. I think that's a kind of an easier layout for you folks to start with here. So just grab the VBox and delete it here. Yeah, we can go ahead and delete the whole thing. Grab an anchor pane, drag it in here, and then make sure I go back to this controller option here where we did find it again. Make sure we're picking the right controller. Now, for here, we want a couple things. So these are all the containers. We don't need any of those right now. We're going to go to controls. So I want to have a couple options. So if I'm selling coffee, right, there are kinds of coffee and then there are things that you put in coffee. So a couple different options here for a kind of coffee. You don't want a checkbox because the idea with a checkbox is multiple boxes can be checked at a time. If you only want one thing to be picked at a time, what we really want is a radio button. So I'm going to bring in some radio buttons here and then we're going to give them some names here. So this will be coffee, and then I need the FX ID as well in this code section because I need to reference this in code. So this is the coffee radio button. And the other thing you do in properties here is you need to give it a toggle group. This idea with a toggle group is we're going to group all of these buttons together so one and only one of them can be picked at a time. So this is our beverage toggle group here, right? And that's good for coffee. And I'll grab another one here and we'll drag it in. Again, just kind of line them up here. I'm not too big on UI or anything like that, but just somewhat kind of saying here, you don't want things all over the place. So you can get a coffee or you can get a latte. And then now that we've already have the beverage toggle group, we can just pick it out of the drop down here. I'll go back to code, and this is my latte radio button. And then we'll add one more here in a second. So we'll do coffee, we'll do latte, and we'll do, this will be our, I can't spell cappuccino, so how about we just do espresso? Because I think I can spell espresso radio button. That's just straight espresso here. And this one will be called espresso. And we'll add it to the toggle group. Okay, so right now, none of these are doing anything yet, right? We haven't added any actions yet. The other piece in code here is what do we do? Well, when it's clicked, what do we want to do? So this will be now a shared handler. You can add a different handler for each one of these, or we could have one method handle all of them. And I'll show you the approach where one method handles all of them, because I think that's a little cleaner here for us. So we'll call this the beverage radio button clicked here. And I'm going to use that same method for all of these here for the on action. So when they get clicked, we use that same method handler for all of them. Give it a little save here. And then the last thing I want to do is set one of these to be checked. So by default, let's say, hey, it's just a coffee. And then if you want the latte or the espresso, you can go check those here. So one of them we can start as selected for us here. All right, so I'll come back, I'll give it a save. I'll come back to IntelliJ, and it has updated the FXML. Again, you can write this stuff by hand if you want. I don't recommend it here. And then we'll leave it as hello view because that's fine. We'll update the controller from the FXML. And now I come over to my controller here, and it has a couple things. Now we have to go add the imports. Yeah, that's fine. So we can do Alt-Enter, add our imports here, for toggle group, and for radio button. And now we have our toggle group. No, we don't need this, so notice it's marked as deprecated. We can just delete that. That was the one we got rid of. And the action event needs an import as well. All right, we're getting there. So now we have all of those. Now I don't have a place to put any text here, so I probably need a piece of like a label that I can put some text in here. So I'll just add a label here. And for now, I'm going to take the text out, leave it blank, and we'll give it an ID so I can reference it in code. We'll call this the receipt label. And we might as well give some prices to people here too, right? So the coffee is, we'll just do $1 at my coffee shop here because you've got to have your coffee. And we'll say a latte is probably like $2, and then maybe espresso is, how about $1.50? Right? Does that sound good? So when we give them a receipt, we can show them the total price. Okay, so we'll have that. Give it a save. We'll go update this one more time. Update the controller. Now, you don't have to use that add-on. This scene builder does have this really cool option here. You can go and view the sample controller skeleton here, and you can essentially copy paste in the things that you need. Right? You don't have to go and use that add-on. I just think that makes life a little easier rather than trying to copy paste and see what went where. And it adds stuff in nicely for us, because if you copy the whole thing, then you have to keep the other methods that you already have, and it's a small hassle here. All right, so with a single event handler method, what I need to do is I need to figure out which one of those radio buttons fired this event here. So I can look at this action event here that I have, this action event. I have a get source method. The get source will give me what item fired the event, the object in which the event initially occurred. Well, it's going to be one of these radio buttons. So I can say, hey, if the event get source is equal to my espresso radio button, then I can take my label, my receipt label, and we'll call set text to, that's espresso for, what do we say, $1.50, something like that. And then if it wasn't that, how about else if it was? And I'm just going to go copy paste shamelessly here because it will save me a little time here. If it wasn't the espresso radio button, how about the coffee radio button? Sure. And then we'll set that to coffee for $1. Now we're not using the class yet. We'll get to that here in a second. I want to kind of build out the skeleton of this first, and then else if it was, nope, that's the wrong else if, the wrong thing to copy paste. There we go. And that was going to be then for the latte radio button. We'll say our latte is $2 here. Okay, that's all we need so far. So we'll give it a little build here, or give it a run first, and then we should be able to use our run button after we ran it once. Here we go. So coffee, latte, espresso. Oh, it's off-centered a little bit here. That's not great. And you notice when it first started, it was empty. That's right. We got to go change in the application. We want to get rid of this preferred size because our anchor pane already has a size. We'll call this the coffee shop. How about shop? I always thought that was a fun way to spell things. Real fancy. The coffee shop. I know it's not pronounced shop, but you notice the receipt's empty right now. So now if I click some buttons, I get some options. So it's a little awkward. It defaulting. Oh, hello, Stella. Stella wants to say hi. Oh, yes. Okay. Hi. You want to say hi to everybody? You're so sweet. We're trying to do a project right now, though, sweetie. All right. So if we want then, instead of this being the event handler method, we can take this and we can take all of that out here and just call it a separate method. So it's going to be a private void, I don't know, show receipt. Now, it doesn't have the action event though, right? So we can then pass the action event if we want here, or we can pass something else, right? This is our helper method here now. So we might as well just pass the event, I guess, to show the receipt. We could do that, and we just give it the action event. We can show the receipt. Let's give that a run. It's still not going to do anything quite yet, right? So this works, but it's not ideal because we have to know which one triggered it and all those sorts of things. And as we start adding some more options, this actually isn't ideal. So we're going to go ahead and change this. I'm going to, let's put it back in here actually, but I'm going to comment this out here because it's not really what we want it to do here. What we really want here is just to show receipt, and we want to figure out which one is checked. We can do the same sort of idea here. So I'm going to grab all of this. We don't need the comments. Here we go. So instead of the action that gets source, I can say, hey, is my espresso radio button dot checked? Where is it here? Checked, selected, is selected. Is going to be a Boolean true or false here. So I can say, hey, if you're selected, then great, let's go do this thing here. I just need the is selected. Is selected, and then one more time with the latte button. So really, we don't even need to know which one of those. Sweetie, you can't jump on my keyboard. You can't be on the keyboard. That's bad for typing. All we need to know is which one is checked here. And then what I can do when this starts here now I don't really have a constructor, and you don't really want to add a constructor to a JavaFX controller. It doesn't really work the way you'd expect it to work. There's a different method you want to add here, is for the initialize. So I think that's an override. Come on, baby. Please don't climb up there. Oh my goodness, Stella. Yeah, override. We want to public void initialize. Is that in here? Initialize? No, I'm spelling it wrong. Nope. Rename to. Is that better? Initialize. Override. Do not need the override. Let's see. Where is it here? No? Oh dear. Why is it not? Okay, 1 second. Let's just go Google this here because I don't remember off the top of my head. X initialize method. There we go. Initialize method. Oh, you can't see that screen. How about the screen over here? There it is. So, okay, you have to give it some other information here. Stella, come on, baby. Really? Really? Is that all we want here? I don't know if that's the right one. Initialize. No, not on the keyboard, Stella. Oh my goodness, she really wants to say hi to you folks here. She is very excited. Stella. This is her first time coming down in the basement. I've been trying to keep the cats upstairs here. Yeah, so it doesn't like avoid initialize there. What am I missing here then? Doesn't like that. Where is it here? Do we not have to override it? Why can't I find this one here? Okay, I guess it's this one here. I feel like we could just do an initialize. Let's try it here. We'll just do it and then initialize. See what happens. We'll just call show receipt. Give it a try here. It's been a whole semester since we tried this. So there we go. Okay, so initialize is picking up here, which is good. So when we, ow, baby, that hurts. When we have an initialize method, that's actually going to get called. It's similar to the constructor here. It's kind of like a constructor. But what happens here is this runs after the JavaFX stuff is added. So, you know, we never see that these like radio buttons are set to new instances of radio buttons anywhere. It just never happens. So if we actually had a real constructor, so if we had a public hello world or hello controller as a constructor and we tried to show receipt here, we're going to get this error that's really ugly. And that error is espresso radio button is null. We get a null pointer exception because the constructor runs before all the FX stuff happens. So we actually kind of need this in-between step here. So we can't use constructor here because the FX stuff isn't loaded. So that's why I say the initialize is kind of like a constructor. This is where we're going to put anything that's going to interact with JavaFX stuff here. So I'm actually just going to leave that commented out here because that doesn't really work for us. And here we go. Let's run it again. All right, so now we have our radio buttons here that work for this. All right, why don't we take a break here? We'll come back in the next video and look at some next controls. I'm going to go put Stella upstairs, I think. Thanks.